Imagine yourself standing in the middle of a bustling party, the kind where laughter ricochets off the walls like stray bullets, and conversations swirl around you in a chaotic fog. The air is thick with the scent of cheap perfume and spilled drinks, bodies pressing in from all sides, each person vying for a sliver of attention. You try to engage, nodding at shallow small talk about weekend plans or the latest viral trend, but something inside you recoils. It's not just discomfort, it's a deeper unease, as if the crowd is siphoning away pieces of your soul, leaving you hollow amid the noise. You've felt this before, haven't you? That invisible barrier separating you from the herd, even as you're surrounded by them. Why does it happen? Why do you, with your sharp mind and endless curiosity, find solace in solitude while others thrive in the swarm? Picture it more vividly. You're at a networking event, the room alive with handshakes and business cards flying like confetti. Everyone seems energized, feeding off the collective buzz. But you? You're scanning for an exit, your thoughts racing far beyond the superficial chatter. "How's the weather?" someone asks, and you force a smile, but inwardly you're dissecting the absurdity of it all. Why waste breath on banalities when the universe holds mysteries worth unraveling? Yet, here's the paradox that gnaws at you. Intelligence should connect you to the world, shouldn't it? It should make you the center of every circle, the one others flock to for insights and wisdom. But instead, it isolates you. The smarter you get, the more you pull away from the crowds. Is this a curse, disguised as a gift? Or perhaps the crowds themselves are the illusion, a mirage that fools the masses but not you. Think about those moments when you've tried to fit in, joining a group outing, only to feel like an outsider observing a play you didn't audition for. Laughter erupts over a joke that lands flat in your mind, and you wonder, am I broken? Why can't I lose myself in this like they do? The conflict builds, doesn't it? Society tells you connection is everything. Join the tribe, build your network, don't be a loner. But deep down, you sense the lie. Crowds demand conformity, a dilution of your unique edges to blend into the collective blur. And you, with your keen perception, see through it. You notice the unspoken hierarchies, the subtle manipulations, the way ideas get trampled in the stampede of consensus. Why surrender to that? What if embracing the crowd means betraying your intellect, trading depth for the comfort of the shallow end? This isn't just social awkwardness, it's a profound rift. Recall the times you've retreated to your own space, a quiet room with a book or a solitary walk under the stars, and felt alive, ideas igniting like fireworks in your brain. In isolation, you thrive, unburdened by the noise that drowns out truth. But in the crowd, it's suffocating. The paradox sharpens. Smart people avoid crowds not out of fear, but from an innate recognition that true growth demands space, mental, emotional, physical. Yet society brands this as antisocial, eccentric, even arrogant. Are you really the problem? Or is the crowd the cage you've outgrown? What hidden forces make the intelligent shun the masses? And why does it feel like a survival instinct rather than a choice? Unsettling, isn't it? To realize that your mind, your greatest asset, might be the very thing pushing you toward the fringes. It challenges everything you've been taught about belonging. If crowds are the norm, why do the brilliant thinkers like Einstein, who wandered alone in thought experiments, or Woolf, who craved her room of one's own, consistently evade them? Is it weakness or wisdom? The tension coils tighter. In a world obsessed with togetherness, your avoidance might be a rebellion, a quiet refusal to dim your light for the sake of fitting in. But what if this pattern isn't random? What if it's rooted in something ancient, primal, etched into the psyche of those who see beyond the surface? And here's the question that will haunt you until you confront it. If smart people always avoid crowds, what unseen truths are they protecting themselves from? And what price do you pay by ignoring this pull? Dive deeper, and you might uncover why this isn't just a quirk, but the gateway to a liberated existence. Now, let's plunge into the abyss that's been stirring within you. That haunting question, why do the sharpest minds flee the crowd, and what truths do they shield themselves from? Isn't just a surface ripple. It's the echo of deeper currents, psychological and philosophical forces that have shaped human existence since we first gathered around fires. You've felt it, haven't you? That subtle pull away from the masses, not as rejection, but as self-preservation. To understand why, we must excavate the roots, drawing from thinkers who dared to stare into the void. Carl Jung's Shadows of the Collective Unconscious, Friedrich Nietzsche's call to transcend the herd, Arthur Schopenhauer's embrace of solitude as the forge of genius. These aren't abstract theories. They're mirrors reflecting your own inner turmoil, revealing how crowds erode the very essence of who you are. Consider Jung's psychology first, his idea of the collective unconscious, that vast reservoir of archetypes and instincts shared by all humanity, bubbling up in myths, dreams, and social norms. In a crowd, you don't just mingle, you submerge into this collective soup where individual thoughts dissolve into groupthink. Why do you avoid it? Because your intelligence heightens your awareness of this submergence. Jung spoke of individuation, the arduous journey to integrate your personal unconscious with the collective, emerging as a whole self. But crowds sabotage this. They amplify the archetypes of conformity, the hero who blends in, the fool who questions nothing. You, with your perceptive mind, sense the danger. It's like stepping into a river that sweeps away your unique fragments, your quirks, your insights, replacing them with the bland sediment of the masses. Haven't you noticed how, after a group gathering, your ideas feel dulled, your emotions diluted? That's the collective unconscious at work, subtly reprogramming your behavior to prioritize harmony over truth, safety over innovation. And here's the paradox that twists the knife. The smarter you are, the more acutely you feel this erosion. Intelligence isn't just about facts or IQ. It's a heightened sensitivity to patterns, inconsistencies, the unspoken undercurrents in human interactions. In crowds, these patterns scream at you, the microaggressions masked as jokes, the power plays hidden in compliments, the way conversations orbit around the lowest common denominator. Psychologically, this triggers cognitive dissonance. You crave depth, but the crowd offers shallows. Over time, this shapes your emotions into a fortress of detachment. You withdraw not from weakness, but from an instinctive defense mechanism, akin to what evolutionary psychologists describe as niche construction, carving out environments that suit your cognitive strengths. But what if this avoidance is also a wound? Schopenhauer, that pessimistic sage, argued that genius demands isolation because the crowd's mediocrity is contagious, infecting your spirit with triviality. He likened society to porcupines, huddling for warmth, pricking each other in the process. You huddle, you get hurt. You step back, you freeze alone. Isn't that the emotional bind you're in? The loneliness that accompanies your intelligence isn't accidental. It's the price of refusing to let the herd define your identity. Delve further into Nietzsche's philosophy, and the roots grow thornier. He railed against the herd mentality, where the masses cling to resentment and slave morality, fearing the exceptional. The Übermensch, the overman, rises above this by affirming life in solitude, creating values beyond the crowd's timid consensus. You embody this, don't you? Your avoidance isn't snobbery. It's a Nietzschean will to power, a rejection of the equalizing force that crowds exert. Socially, crowds enforce cultural structures, norms, hierarchies, expectations that stifle the outlier. Think of how media and education glorify extroversion, portraying the lone thinker as odd or broken. Yet this cultural imprint sneaks into your psyche, whispering doubts. Why can't you just enjoy the party like everyone else? It influences your behavior insidiously, making you second-guess your instincts, suppressing your voice in groups, even altering your self-perception to view solitude as a flaw rather than a strength. Philosophically, this creates a rift in your identity. Are you the enlightened one or the outcast? Nietzsche would say both, and that tension fuels your growth, but only if you embrace it. But wait, the mechanisms run even deeper, intertwining with modern psychology's insights into social cognition. Crowds trigger mirror neurons, those brain cells that make you mimic others, emotions and actions, fostering empathy but also conformity. For the intelligent, this mirroring feels like a trap, a loss of autonomy. Studies in social psychology, like Solomon Asch's conformity experiments, show how easily groups sway judgment, even on obvious truths. You resist because your mind pierces the illusion, but the effort drains you, leading to emotional fatigue. Culturally, this is amplified by structures like capitalism's emphasis on networking or collectivist societies' demand for harmony, both of which reward the crowd pleaser over the iconoclast. How does this subtly reshape you? It creeps into your habits, avoiding social media frenzies, skipping team-building exercises, while forging an identity rooted in independence. Yet, the paradox persists. By avoiding crowds, you protect your authenticity, but you risk echoing chambers of your own making. Isn't it unsettling to realize that what feels like freedom might also be a self-imposed exile? These roots, psychological submersion, philosophical rebellion, cultural conditioning, don't just explain your avoidance. They reveal how it permeates every layer of your being. Behaviorally, you opt for one-on-one dialogues where ideas can breathe, not suffocate. Emotionally, you grapple with a bittersweet isolation, a mix of empowerment and ache. In terms of identity, you redefine yourself as the observer, the thinker, unbound by the tribe. But this isn't the end of the descent. What if these forces aren't just personal, but societal architects, quietly dictating destinies on a grand scale? The tension builds. Ignoring them might doom you to a half-life, forever skirting the edges without understanding why. Probe further, and you uncover the invisible scars they leave, not just on you, but on the world you've been taught to navigate. You have glimpsed the roots, the shadows of the subconscious, Nietzsche's contempt, Schopenhauer's sting, the invisible molds of society. They flow like underground rivers, quietly converging to shape every step you take. But now, face the consequences of this avoidance. It is not merely a personal choice, but an invisible poison, slowly seeping into your fate and eroding the very foundation of society. Do you think withdrawing from the crowd is a temporary respite? Wrong. It will stretch out like a shadow, silently reshaping your life's path, turning you from a potential prophet into a marginalized ghost. Imagine, you sit in an empty room, staring at the unread messages on the screen, a tired satisfaction surging within you. Finally, no need to perform anymore. Yet behind this satisfaction lies what? A self drifting further away, a potential forgotten. The consequence of intelligent people avoiding the crowd is not an obvious wound, but an invisible scar. It accustoms you to loneliness, yet robs you of the ability to connect. As a result, your career stagnates in your comfort zone, for you shun the opportunities that demand connections. Your relationships remain superficial, for you fear the vulnerability exposed by true intimacy. Why? Because cognitive biases are at work here. Confirmation bias makes you see only the shallowness of the crowd and overlook the rare moments of deep connection. Your brain, a precise machine, reinforces this pattern. Every act of avoidance releases a dopamine reward, addicting you to isolation. But here comes the paradox. Could this clever self-preservation turn your life into a one-man show, brilliant yet unshared? When we delve into the mechanisms of the brain, the consequences grow even more grim. Your nervous system was designed for survival. In ancient times, the crowd meant safety, and isolation equaled death. Yet modern society has inverted this reality. The crowd has become a breeding ground for noise, and the brain's amygdala becomes overactivated during social interactions, unleashing a flood of anxiety. Intelligent people avoid the crowd because their cognitive load is higher. They process information with laser-like precision, yet become overloaded by the cacophony of the masses. Consider mirror neurons. They make you instinctively mimic others, but in shallow conversations, this mimicry becomes corrosive. You begin to absorb mediocre mindsets, and unwittingly, your creativity withers. Scientific research echoes this. Highly intelligent individuals often report social fatigue because their prefrontal cortices, already drained from processing complex thoughts, can no longer cope with trivial interactions. The outcome? It shapes your emotional tone. Chronic loneliness seeps into your daily life like fog, turning optimism into cynicism and passion into apathy. Have you noticed that this avoidance is quietly rewriting your identity? From intelligent and independent to intelligent but reclusive, a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your brain adapts to this state, strengthening neural pathways, until avoidance becomes instinctive. As a result, your destiny bends. Opportunities slip away because you are not in the right place. Inspiration dries up for lack of clashing sparks. But what is more terrifying is that this process is so insidious, like slow poisoning. You feel everything is normal until one day you wake up to find yourself trapped in a cage of your own making. Now, Turning to cultural indoctrination, these consequences spread to society like a virus. Modern culture, a brainwashing machine, instills the myth that socializing equals success. LinkedIn connections, Instagram likes, party invitations. These have become the measure of worth. Intelligent people avoid the crowd because they see through this illusion. It is not connection, but consumption. It shapes the social structure, elevating the shallow and marginalizing the profound. Think of cognitive dissonance. You know the emptiness of the crowd, yet are pressured by cultural norms to conform, resulting in inner turmoil. Every compromise adds another layer of bondage. Culture acts as a pusher. Media glorifies influencer mindset, education emphasizes teamwork, and workplaces reward tact. The consequence? Society as a whole drifts toward mediocrity. Innovation stagnates because the intelligent choose silence. Diversity fades because dissent is rejected. Consider the lessons of history. Galileo's isolation was not an exception, but a pattern. Society punishes those who stray from consensus, turning them into martyrs rather than leaders. Today, this consequence is amplified in the digital age. Algorithms push similar content, reinforcing your bubble and turning avoidance into a perpetual cycle. The social structure distorts. Power concentrates in those who excel at performing, while wisdom goes underground. A paradox emerges. Intelligent people avoid the crowd to preserve their purity. Yet could this very avoidance make society darker, letting foolish consensus reign supreme? Have you ever asked yourself, in this structure, what is your role? A bystander or a potential catalyst for change? Cultural indoctrination is so powerful that it makes you believe avoidance is personality rather than a warning. Consequently, your life is quietly redirected from an explorer to a hermit. This invisible consequence also festers on an emotional level, haunting your relationships and self-perception like a ghost. Do you think avoiding the crowd protects your depth? Wrong. It creates an echo chamber. Your thoughts reverberate in solitude without challenge, gradually hardening into prejudice. Emotionally, it amplifies existential anxiety. The burden of freedom Sartre wrote about takes tangible form here. Without the anchor of the crowd, you face the void, yet also lose your buffer. The result is a sparse social network. Friends turn into acquaintances, lovers into strangers, because you fear the clash of intimacy will expose your oddity. Brain mechanisms reinforce this. Cortisol surges at the prospect of social interaction, driving you to flee rather than face. On a societal level, it fuels division. Intelligent people cluster in niche communities, allowing the mainstream to drift further toward anti-intellectualism. Think of Huxley's Brave New World asterisk. The masses are anesthetized by entertainment, and the avoidance of the intelligent leaves this anesthesia unopposed. Your destiny is forged here, a life that is intelligent yet unfulfilled, potential like seeds buried in soil but never sprouting. A sense of urgency rises. If you do not awaken, this consequence will snowball, from occasional avoidance to lifelong isolation, from personal regret to societal tragedy. Can you feel it? That faint unease, a warning like a heartbeat. If you continue this way, you will sink deeper, beyond rescue. But do not despair. Terrible as these consequences are, they are not the end. They are merely a prelude, pointing to a turning point, the dawn of rebellion. If you dare to break this cycle, you will find that the way out is not escape, but reinvention, a subversive path that allows you to reclaim control. You have felt the weight of those consequences, like invisible shackles quietly locking in your fate, twisting the fabric of society and turning avoidance from a choice into destiny. But now, stop and take a deep breath. This is not the end, but the threshold of a turning point. Rebellion begins here, not as blind resistance, but as conscious awakening. Do you think the intelligence withdrawal from the crowd is a doomed curse? Wrong. It can be the key to freedom if you dare to overturn everything and redefine the boundary between the crowd and the self. Imagine no longer fleeing, but diving in selectively, choosing your battlefield like a hunter. This is not compromise, but strategy, a counterintuitive way out that transforms you from victim to master. Why? Because conventional wisdom tells you that socializing is a necessity and loneliness a flaw. Now reverse your perspective. The crowd is not an enemy, but a mirror. It reflects your weaknesses and forces you to grow. If you dare to look directly at it, you will find the path lies in those seemingly paradoxical routes. Neither full avoidance nor total immersion, but consciously reshaping interaction. The paradox shines here. The true power of the intelligent is not isolation, but selective penetration, choosing connections that spark depth and discarding the rest. This overturns your old pattern, from passive avoidance to active shaping. Start with this counterintuitive starting point. Embrace your oddity as a weapon, not a burden. Tradition tells you to fit in, but Nietzsche would mock this. He teaches become who you are, even if it means the summit of solitude. Yet the way out is not to copy Nietzsche's seclusion wholesale, but to borrow his will, invade the shallows of the crowd, and inject your depth. Think of those in history who truly understood. Nietzsche himself, writing in the mountains, yet influencing the world through words. He did not avoid everything, but chose indirect rebellion. You can do the same. Why not turn your avoidance into creation? Brew ideas in solitude, then release them into chosen small circles, detonating consensus like a bomb. For example, Jung's shadow work applies here. Do not suppress your nonconformity, but integrate it. The way out is, counterintuitively, to expose your shadow. Share those strange ideas in conversation, not for approval, but to test the waters. The result? The shallow disperse, the deep gather. Your brain will adapt, from anxious defense to excited curiosity. Why does this work? Because it is logically rigorous. The crowd acts as a filter. By actively testing the waters, you attract your kind and build your tribe. Can you feel it? That sense of power. No longer a victim, you are the architect, designing your own social landscape. Deeper still, this rebellion demands a new perspective. See the crowd as a laboratory, not a threat. Traditional thinking frames socializing as a battlefield, where you are always defending. Overturn it. Treat every interaction as an experiment, testing your limits, observing others' reactions. Schopenhauer would nod in approval. Despite his misanthropy, he connected souls through his work. Think. Schopenhauer avoided salons, yet struck straight to the heart in his books. His way out was choosing mediums over face-to-face encounters. For you, the counterintuitive logic is, digitize your rebellion. Why not use blogs, podcasts, or niche forums to avoid the physical crowd while reaching the intelligent worldwide? Sartre is a historical example. He despised the idea that, quote, hell is other people, yet debated in cafes, choosing companions who could withstand existential shocks. His way out? Not total avoidance, but setting rules, only interacting with those who challenge you. You can too. Make your rebellion list. Once a week, step into the crowd, but with purpose. Ask one profound question and see who responds. A paradox emerges. This invasion seems risky, yet is logically safe, because you control the rhythm and can retreat at any time. As a result, your identity reshapes from avoider to penetrator, emotion from anxiety to empowerment. Why does this overturn tradition? Because it recognizes your intelligence as a gift, not a curse, using it to craft connections, not escape them. Now move to practical solutions. Build a shadow network, a counterintuitive social structure. Tradition says make many friends, but the intelligent know quality beats quantity. The logic here. Your avoidance stems from energy depletion. So rebellion means selecting a few deep connections, like Raskolnikov in Dostoevsky's works. Isolated as he was, he collided with Sonia at a crucial moment, sparking awakening. Think of historical figures. Huxley warned of entertainment's anesthesia in Brave New World, yet awakened readers through writing. His way out was choosing influence over integration. Today you can follow suit. Find one or two mirror souls, converse deeply regularly, and tune out public noise. The counterintuitive point: draw strength from avoidance, recharge in solitude, then strike with precision. For example, Gabor Mate's addiction theory applies. The crowd is like an addiction, offering brief highs but long-term emptiness. The solution? Abstain from superficial relationships and pursue connection highs, conversations that touch human nature. Why the logic? Because your brain's reward system reshapes, shifting from shallow dopamine stimulation to deep fulfillment. You will feel the shift. Relationships turn from burden to fuel, Destiny from passive to active. Paradox. The intelligence avoidance is not weakness, but a starting point. From here, you rebuild everything. This flame of rebellion still needs fuel, awakeners throughout history as beacons. Think of Nietzsche's eternal recurrence. He teaches you to live as if every moment is eternal, escaping the cycle of mediocrity. Or Jung's process of individuation, integrating the shadow, turning avoidance into growth. Sartre's freedom of choice. You are not defined by the crowd, but define it. Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground ***. Insight born from isolation. Huxley's Doors of Perception. Avoiding anesthesia, opening inner vision. These people did not avoid entirely, but reshaped the rules, and so can you. The way out is one small rebellion each day. Refuse one shallow chat, pursue one deep question. A sense of power surges. You are no longer a clever, helpless bystander, but a leader. Why is this feasible? Because its logical chain is complete, from cognitive overturning to behavioral practice to emotional empowerment. You feel capable of change now, don't you? That electric current of awakening flows within you. But do not stop here. These paths are only bridges to a profound shore. If you dare to cross, you will reach the ultimate truth, a revelation that overturns everything, turning avoidance from a cage into wings. You have ignited the flame of rebellion. Those paths are like keys that have unlocked the cage. But now, stop and gaze ahead. This is not the end, but the ultimate epiphany, the moment when all fragments assemble into a single vision. The ultimate truth of intelligent people avoiding the crowd is not mere escape or self-protection, but the deepest paradox of human nature. Your intelligence is essentially a gift of solitude, an invitation to your true self. Do you think the crowd is your enemy and avoidance a weakness? Wrong. This revelation upends your entire worldview. It reveals that genuine connection is never found in the crowd, but begins in the inner void. Imagine standing on a cliff. Below lies the noise of the crowd, above the silence of the stars. Why do the intelligent choose to ascend? Because they understand the crowd is not a harbor of belonging, but a mirror of illusion. It reflects not you, but the shadow you fear becoming. Here arrives the ultimate insight. Avoiding the crowd is not rejecting others, but embracing your transcendence, a Nietzschean eternal perspective that lifts you above mediocrity to live as your own myth. The core of this epiphany is rooted in the very marrow of existentialism. Sartre once said, "You are thrown into this world, and freedom is your curse. To choose avoidance is to choose your essence." But go deeper and reverse everything. Intelligent people avoid the crowd because they see through the trick of the other. The crowd is not a collection of individuals, but a breeding ground for collective hallucination, forcing you to play a role and sacrifice your uniqueness. Think, why do your insights surge when you are alone? Because there, no gaze of others distorts your truth. Without the crowd's noise, your inner dialogue awakens. It is Jung's collective unconscious whispering, linking you to the wisdom of the ancients. The paradox explodes. The more you avoid the shallow crowd, the closer you reach the profound community of human beings. Not physical gatherings, but spiritual resonance. Historically, sages like Schopenhauer wrote eternity in seclusion because they knew truth is not debated, but conceived in solitude. Your avoidance is not a loss, but a purification. It filters out noise, turning your intelligence from a tool into an art. Can you feel it? The sudden clarity. Past anxieties, consequences. Roots all disperse like mist, revealing the blue sky. The intelligent are not victims, they are prophets. They avoid the crowd only to return better, with a purer self to influence the world. But this truth is even more staggering. It overturns your identity. You have always thought intelligence means superiority, yet the ultimate insight is that it is actually the pain of awakening. The man Dostoevsky portrayed in Notes from Underground avoided society, yet found humanity in the storms of his soul. He teaches us, the normality of the crowd is an anesthetic to escape pain. Intelligent people avoid it because they refuse this anesthesia. They choose to stare directly at life's absurdity, the traps of desire, the void of existence. Why is this so relatable? Because in your daily life, it materializes in small moments. Refusing a boring gathering gives you an extra hour to read. Avoiding small talk preserves your inner fire. As a result, your life's arc is redrawn, from drifting with the tide to mastering your fate. Huxley's warning echoes here. The savage and brave New World chose solitude because he knew the happiness of the crowd is fake, and true joy hides in the depth of pain. Have you ever asked yourself, if I keep avoiding, will I miss out? Wrong, says this Epiphany. All you miss is illusion. What you gain is reality. The truth of intelligent people avoiding the crowd is that they instinctively choose an asterisk higher form of connection, with the self, with eternity, with a few souls, rather than superficial contact with the masses. Now this insight surges like a tide, drowning your old beliefs. It lands at the height of philosophy, Nietzsche's revaluation of all values, reevaluating the crowd not as an enemy, but as a catalyst. It forces you to grow, exposes your weaknesses, and forges an iron will from avoidance. Put it plainly, think of your next social encounter, not total avoidance, but entering with awakened eyes. Observe, choose, withdraw. You will find the crowd is no longer a cage, but a mirror, helping you see your unintegrated shadow. Gabor Mate's perspective on addiction adds, the crowd is like an addiction, offering brief belonging yet concealing trauma. The ultimate way out? Not breaking the addiction, but transmuting, it, using avoidance as healing, to reclaim inner wholeness. The paradox reaches its peak. Intelligent people avoid the crowd not because they are too smart, but because they are too human. They feel the true essence of connection, not quantity, but depth. This epiphany overturns everything. Your solitude is not a curse, but a sacred space where you are reborn into wholeness. Emotion builds layer upon layer, like a film climax. First shock, I have misunderstood all along. Then relief, avoidance is my strength. Finally, a surge of power. I can reshape everything. The pace slows, lingering long after. Imagine turning off the screen, sitting in darkness, asking yourself, am I truly intelligent? If so, why not start now by avoiding what steals my soul? This truth leaves a hook in your heart. You must re-examine your life. Which crowds are anesthetizing you? Which acts of avoidance are saving you? It is not an answer, but an invitation. From now on, live like those thinkers, lonely yet powerful, avoiding yet profound. Your journey is not over. It has only just begun, in the afterglow of this epiphany, stretching into eternity.